Very much. Go back to your positions, please. Media, let's go back.
Thank you. Thank you. The ECOWAS anthem. Your Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana, Chair of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of States and Government, host of this August session, Your Excellencies, members of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, Your Excellency, Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and ECOWAS mediator for Mali. Your Excellency Jean-Claude Cassibrou, President of the ECOWAS Commission. Your Excellency, Madame Louise Muhishi-Kwabo, Secretary General of La Francophonie. Your Excellency, Mohamed Saleh Anadif, Special Representative of the United Nations Secretary General, Head of the UN Office for West Africa and the Sahel. Your Excellency, Dr. Akiwumi Adeshino, President of the African Development Bank Group. Your Excellency, Mr. Abdoulaye Diop, President of the UNWA Commission. Your Excellency, Dr. Mohamed Ibn Chambers, former President of the ECOWAS Commission and former head of UNOWAS. Honorable Ministers, Governors of Central Banks, Honorable Sidi Mohamed Tunis, Speaker of the ECOWAS Parliament, Your Lordship Edward Amuako Ashante, President of the Community Court of Justice, distinguished heads of ECOWAS institutions, Your Excellency Mrs. Finda Koroma, Vice President of the ECOWAS Commission, Honorable Commissioners and statutory appointees of the Commission and community institutions, Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, members of the Fourth Estate, staff of community institutions, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 49th Ordinary Session of the Authority of Heads of State and Government. This is the opening ceremony. During this opening ceremony, it will be our pleasure to hear a statement from His Excellency Jean-Claude Cassibrou, President of the ECOWAS Commission. Then we will be honored to have the welcome address by the Chair of the ECOWAS Authority, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana. We will also have statements from the special guest of the Chair of the Community. We will hear from Her Excellency Louise Muhishi-Kwabo, Secretary General of La Francophonie. This will be followed by a statement by His Excellency Mohamed Saleh Anadif, Special Representative of the UN Secretary General for West Africa and the Sahel. We will also be addressed by His Excellency Dr. Akiwumi Adeshino, President of the Africa Development Bank Group. There will also be the signature of a military and technical memorandum of understanding between the Republic of Senegal and the Republic of Guinea. And that will mark the close of the opening ceremony. Sem mais tarde, eu tenho o prazer de convidar a Sua Excelência Jean-Claude Cassibrou, Presidente da Comissão da CEDEAO, a pronunciar a sua locução. Obrigada.
Excellences, Monsieur le Président de la Conférence des chefs d'État et de gouvernement de la CEDEAO, Excellences, Messieurs les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, Monsieur le médiateur de la CEDEAO pour le Mali, Madame la Présidente du Conseil des ministres de la CEDEAO, Madame la Secrétaire générale de la francophonie, Monsieur le Président de la Banque africaine de développement, Monsieur le représentant spécial du Secrétaire général des Nations unies et chef du Bureau des Nations unies pour l'Afrique de l'Ouest, ECOWAS, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, Messieurs les gouverneurs des banques centrales de la CEDEAO, Madame la vice-présidente de la commission de la CEDEAO, Messieurs les chefs d'institution de la CEDEAO, distingués invités, Mesdames, Messieurs, c'est pour moi un grand honneur de vous souhaiter la bienvenue au nom de toutes les institutions de la CEDEAO à l'occasion de la 59e session ordinaire de la conférence des chefs d'État et de gouvernement de la CEDEAO. C'est avec un réel plaisir que je m'acquitte de ce devoir. Je saisis cette opportunité pour exprimer notre gratitude au gouvernement et au peuple de la République du Ghana pour l'accueil chaleureux et fraternel, ainsi que pour toutes les facilités qui nous permettent de tenir notre réunion. Permettez-moi de rendre un hommage à son Excellence M. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, président de la République du Ghana et président en exercice de la conférence des chefs d'État et de gouvernement de la CEDEAO, pour sa grande disponibilité et son soutien sans faille dans la mise en œuvre de tous les chantiers d'intégration de la CEDEAO. Je voudrais également renouveler nos félicitations à son Excellence M. Patrice Talon, président de la République du Bénin, pour sa réélection pour un second mandat, et à son Excellence M. Mohamed Bazoum, président de la République du Niger, à la suite de son élection pour conduire la destinée de la République du Niger. Nous leur souhaitons plein succès dans l'accomplissement de leurs mandats respectifs. Excellences, Messieurs les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, comme à l'accoutumée, votre session examinera les rapports des conseils des ministres ainsi que les rapports spécifiques qui vous ont soumis pour solliciter vos orientations et vos décisions. À cet égard, 5 thèmes majeurs ont dominé les travaux préparatoires à ce sommet. Ainsi, la question sécuritaire reste encore, malheureusement, une préoccupation pour notre région. Malgré les efforts importants engagés au niveau de chacun des États membres, particulièrement ceux de la ligne de front, à savoir le Burkina, le Niger, le Mali et le Nigeria, les attaques terroristes ont augmenté de manière significative, pratiquement doublé entre les 5 premiers mois des années 2021 et 2020. La mise en œuvre du plan d'action régional de lutte contre le terrorisme que vous avez adopté en septembre 2019 a démarré et devrait compléter et renforcer les importants efforts au niveau de chaque État membre. Il serait souhaitable que les financements prévus puissent être mobilisés pour accélérer sa mise en œuvre. Au plan sanitaire, malgré la stabilisation du nombre de contaminations, la pandémie à Covid-19 reste toujours un défi, non seulement pour le continent, mais pour notre région. Tous les États membres ont démarré leur programme de vaccination grâce aux acquisitions de vaccins directement par les pays ou par l'initiative, à travers l'initiative COVAX. Nous saluons la récente décision du G7, le 13 juin dernier 2021, en Grande-Bretagne, de fournir des doses supplémentaires aux pays en développement, ce qui devrait contribuer, nous l'espérons, à accroître la disponibilité de vaccins dans notre région. Conformément à vos décisions, la Commission et l'Organisation ouest-africaine de la santé se sont mobilisés pour soutenir les États membres dans ce domaine. Au plan politique, notre région vient de terminer un cycle électoral avec 7 élections présidentielles et plusieurs élections législatives au cours des 14 derniers mois, et ce, conformément au calendrier constitutionnel des États membres concernés, renforçant ainsi nos acquis démocratiques. Cependant, la crise sociopolitique au Mali reste une préoccupation, compte tenu des risques d'instabilité, non seulement pour ce pays, mais pour toute la sous-région. Il est donc important que les décisions que vous avez prises lors du sommet extraordinaire d'Accra le 31 mai dernier soient mises en œuvre, particulièrement en termes de respect de la date des élections présidentielles fixée au 27 février 2022. Le rapport du médiateur qui s'est rendu récemment au Mali et qui vous sera présenté dans le huis clos donnera un peu les avancées récentes qui ont été effectuées dans ce pays. Enfin, conformément à vos orientations, lors de votre dernier sommet extraordinaire du 2 février 2021, un projet de réforme institutionnelle de la CEDEAO vous est soumis. Cette réforme vise à renforcer l'efficacité de nos institutions et à réduire le coût de fonctionnement des institutions de la CEDEAO. Ce projet a fait l'objet de nombreuses discussions à travers une réunion du Conseil des ministres extraordinaire et dont les conclusions vous seront présentées à ce sommet. Excellences, Messieurs les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, après une baisse de près de 1% en 2020, notre région devrait retrouver une croissance économique positive en 2021, estimée à 3,4%, soit le même niveau que la période avant le Covid. Cependant, cette croissance reste encore insuffisante, se situant notamment en deçà de la moyenne du continent. Nous devons donc continuer à accroître les investissements publics et privés, notamment dans les infrastructures et le capital humain. Dans ce contexte, la mise en œuvre concrète des conclusions du sommet de Paris sur le financement des économies africaines, ainsi que l'initiative du G20 portant sur le traitement de la dette au-delà de la suspension des services de la dette sont fortement attendus. Excellences, Messieurs les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, je voudrais terminer en vous remerciant pour vos efforts en faveur de l'intégration régionale et vous exprimer toute notre gratitude pour votre soutien envers toutes les institutions de la CEDEAO dans l'accomplissement de leur mission. Comme annoncé dès le début, nous saluons également la signature d'un accord qui sera fait ce matin entre la République de Guinée et la République du Sénégal. Nous souhaitons qu'à travers cet accord, des progrès puissent être faits qui permettront, dans un délai suffisamment bref, de permettre la réouverture de la frontière entre la République de Guinée et la République du Sénégal, et souhaitons également espérer que les discussions se poursuivront pour également permettre la réouverture des frontières entre la République de Guinée et celle de Guinée et la République de Guinée-Bissau. Nous voudrions encore une fois réaffirmer notre engagement à œuvrer pour le développement de notre communauté sous vos orientations. Merci encore pour votre très aimable attention.
We thank His Excellency, the President of the Commission. J'ai maintenant l'honneur d'inviter Son Excellence, M. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Président de la République du Ghana et Président d'exercice de la Conférence des chefs d'État et de gouvernement de la CEDEAO, à prononcer son allocation de bienvenue. Merci.
Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, members of the ECOWAS Authority, representatives of member states, President of the ECOWAS Commission, Chair of the ECOWAS Council of Ministers, heads of ECOWAS institutions, the ECOWAS mediator on the Mali crisis, representative of the African Union Commission, Secretary General of La Francophonie and special guest of honor, President of the African Development Bank, Special Representative of the UN Secretary General for West Africa and Sahel, members of the Diplomatic Corps, fellow West Africans, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome your excellencies to your second home, Accra, Ghana's capital, for the 59th Ordinary Session of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. I acknowledge with gratitude the presence of the representatives of the African Union and the United Nations and members of the diplomatic corps, and most especially that of Madame Louise Mushikiwabo, our Rwandan sister, who is the Secretary General of La Francophonie and our special guest of honor. I say a hearty akwaba, a word of welcome to each one of you, and I hope you're enjoying the famed Ghanaian hospitality. On behalf of the government and people of Ghana, I thank all ECOWAS member states and all AU member states for the support of Ghana's recent successful candidature for a non-permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council for the years 2022 and 2023. Ghana received the highest number of votes on the day, that is 185 out of 190 votes. It would not have been possible without your active support. I assure your excellencies that Ghana will make sure that Africa's voice is heard loud and clear in the deliberations of the Security Council, both on matters affecting our region and the continent and on global issues, and we will consult broadly to define Africa's interests. Africa's common position on UN reform, based on the Ezulwini Consensus, is one matter Ghana is determined to urge on the global agenda. We will work to solicit the backing of countries around the world for this long overdue reform. We believe it is time to correct the long-standing injustice that the current structure and composition of the UN Security Council represents for the nations of Africa. Excellencies, let me congratulate warmly our brothers and colleagues, His Excellency Mohamed Bazoum and His Excellency Patrice Talon, who have been elected as presidents of the Republic of Niger and of the Republic of Benin, respectively, since our last summit. I offer them my and the community's best wishes for their success during their terms of office. I commend also the Republics of Côte d'Ivoire and Cape Verde for the conduct and outcomes of their latest legislative elections. Our region continues to strengthen its democratic credentials through the holding of successful elections. Excellencies, the agenda for this meeting has been well defined. At our extraordinary summit in February 2021, you entrusted me with the task of leading the reflection on the institutional reform of our organization. The purpose of the reform is to improve the performance and operational efficiency of ECOWAS institutions in order to ensure the implementation of integration programs for the economic and social development of the region. The reform focuses on the optimal structure of the Commission and other institutions, on modalities for the allocation of statutory positions, and on streamlining ECOWAS's operating costs. These were the subjects of several meetings at the ministerial level, and their conclusions will be presented to us for our adoption or otherwise during our closed session. Furthermore, as part of the consolidation of our solidarity and pursuant to the decision taken at our last extraordinary summit, we will consider for adoption a rotation mechanism that will enable the various linguistic groups of our community and each member state a fair, orderly opportunity to lead and represent the community in regional, continental, and global affairs. The importance of all these issues is an indication of the richness and depth of our community. I remain convinced that the quality of our discussions and the decisions we take together will, as is customary, be commensurate with the ambitions we have for our region. I hope we can agree quickly on these matters so that we will have the time to delve into and take decisions on the great issues which face us of terrorism, violent extremism, democracy, peace and security, health and the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, and the rapid economic recovery of our region from the effects of the pandemic. Unfortunately, we're still confronted with serious security challenges, with deadly terrorist attacks and kidnappings, not only in the frontline countries, namely Mali, Nigeria, Burkina Faso, and Niger, but also in the coastal countries of our region, such as Côte d'Ivoire. Recently, the terrorist attack, which resulted in the death of some 132 civilians, including children, in Burkina Faso on 5th June, is the latest such outrage. I went in the name of the community to Ouagadougou on Wednesday, 9th June, to commiserate with President Rochmar's Christian Kabore and offer our condolences, sympathies, and support to the government and people of Burkina Faso in their dark hour. Excellencies, these developments should reinforce our collective commitment to pursue and implement with renewed vigor the decisions taken at our extraordinary summit on terrorism on 14 September 2019. This concerted effort, which must be a major issue and a priority objective for the community, is the best way for us to address this security challenge. It is a matter of dignity and sovereignty, which affects all nations in the region. None of our countries is insulated from the threats of terrorism. Whilst thanking the countries that have already contributed to the ECOWAS Regional Security Fund, I appeal to other countries who are yet to contribute to do so. We must also pay urgent attention to the growing threat to maritime security in our region. Acts of piracy and maritime destabilization are on the rise in the Gulf of Guinea, thus affecting trade in our community and increasing the costs of imported products. We must operationalize the maritime centers we have established in the region and agree on the way forward to combat these acts of piracy. We cannot hand over control of the Gulf to pirates. Excellencies, we'll have the opportunity to discuss the political situation in Mali with a view to assessing the progress made since our last decisions taken at the emergency summit held here in Accra on the 30th of May, when we suspended the Republic of Mali from our organization, pending the restoration of democratic rule there. We'll hear a report from the ECOWAS mediator on the Malian crisis, His Excellency Goodluck Jonathan, the former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the President of the ECOWAS Commission, His Excellency Jean-Claude Cassibrou, who went together to Mali after the investiture of Colonel Goita. One issue of concern for all of us has to do with the pandemic of COVID-19, which continues to ravage the world and our region. The strong measures taken at national and regional levels since the outbreak of the pandemic have enabled us to contain and mitigate, with the blessing of the Almighty, its impact in our respective countries, the tragic deaths we have recorded notwithstanding. We need, as a community, to contribute to the global discourse on access and availability of vaccines for all the peoples of the world. Through the COVAX initiative, all the countries in the region have taken delivery of some vaccines, supplemented by direct procurement by some member states. I thank foreign friends of the community who who have contributed to funding the initiative. We note, however, that the quantities received are wholly insufficient. We must thus continue to work on the purchase and production of vaccines in our region. We have to encourage members of our community, such as Nigeria, Senegal, and my own country, Ghana, which are making the effort to produce their own vaccines. We cannot afford to be naked the next time. The recent decision of the G7 to provide more vaccines to developing countries is commendable, just as its decision on the taxation of multinational companies. It is a first step towards addressing the illicit flow of funds in which these multinational companies play a large part and which lead to the huge exodus of resources from our continent. There's still more to be done. Excellencies, beyond these challenges, we must work to achieve strong economic growth based on the construction of resilient economies. Let us continue to focus on the implementation of programs and projects in all areas of national life to ensure job creation and the well-being of our peoples. This requires that we strengthen our regional integration by pursuing the free movement of goods and people and the development of our economic infrastructure and our human capital bases. In this regard, the entry into force of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, on 1st January 2021, offers us a historic opportunity to enhance our levels of inter-regional trade and inspire the momentum for rapid economic growth. We have to rise to the occasion and change our destiny. Work on the community's single currency must also continue. According to our program, the new Convergence Pact and the new roadmap for its implementation will be submitted for adoption during this summit. Excellencies, the world continues to value the work of our organization, which is held up as a model of regional engagement on the continent, and we must continue to do whatever is required to strengthen it and help realize its objectives. Excellencies, I conclude my address by again welcoming you to Accra and wishing our meeting success. I hereby declare the 59th Ordinary Session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government open. I thank you. Thank you for your kind attention. Je vous remercie de votre aimable attention. Muito obrigado pela sua atenção. That is for the Guinea President. Guinea-Bissau President. Thank you.
We thank His Excellency for his welcome address. We shall now hear from the special guests who have graciously accepted the invitation of the Chair of the Authority. Ainsi, nous allons inviter Son Excellence Madame Louise Mushikiwabo, Secrétaire générale de la Francophonie, à prononcer son discours. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Merci, Madame. Excellence, Monsieur le Président en exercice de la CEDEAO, Président de la République ghanéenne, notre gracieux hôte, Excellences, Messieurs les chefs d'État de gouvernement, distingués invités, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs
of multilateral international organizations, both political and economic, and representatives of international organizations, the President of the ECOWAS Commission, the distinguished mediator of ECOWAS from Mali, distinguished members of the diplomatic corps, my dear brothers and sisters from the ECOWAS region. President Nana Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana, current Chairman of ECOWAS, President of the ECOWAS Commission, I wish first and foremost to thank you most sincerely for the invitation extended to me as a special invited guest to participate in this 59th session of the Summit of the Heads of State and Government of ECOWAS. Our two organizations, Mr. Chairman, are sister organizations. Almost all members of your organization are members of the Francophonie, including Ghana and the Gambia, which is the baby of our organization. And we indeed have been at the foundation of the creation of Francophonie. Several of the founding fathers indeed are from West Africa, and it was Niamey that they selected 51 years ago to establish this multi-continental and multicultural organization, which is La Francophonie. It is therefore for me an honor to participate and to be with you within this family and to participate in your deliberations which are taking place in a global context characterized by challenges which are first of all health, security, and in the economic front, on the economic front. The health crisis that is wreaking havoc over the past 1.5 years has exposed the cracks in our current multilateral system, and we need to draw lessons from that. The solution in this area should be a global one and characterized by solidarity. It is for that reason that faced with the consequences, the Francophonie, which is the organization that I'm representing, very quickly mobilized its member states. As Secretary General, I have continuously conducted advocacy for equitable access to vaccines. We believe that in the face of health crisis, health is a global crisis. All member states should have guaranteed access to vaccines in order to ensure human security and health at a global level and relaunch our economies. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Francophonie has decided to provide significant support to women in particular during the health crisis, given that they are most affected. A new fund called Francophonie with Her has enabled us to fund 59 projects driven by women and young girls in 20 member states within the Francophonie, which amongst which we have several West African countries. Indeed, I had the opportunity to visit several of these women since December 2020. More than 14,000 women have indeed already benefited from this fund, and the second edition was launched in March 2021. The demographic growth in many of our member states is indeed undeniably a strength, but in order to derive benefits from it, we need to pay special attention to the youth, to their aspirations. Public policies should create opportunities and guarantee realistic prospects, which also take into consideration the youth. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we need to guarantee schooling and employment for them. Several of our countries, amongst which we have ECOWAS countries, have an active and impatient youth which is, however, ready to seize opportunities. The Francophonie is supportive of your efforts as far as the youth are concerned, and it is in this regard that with the countries of the G5 Sahel, which are also members of the Francophonie, we have committed ourselves to the establishment of a Youth Sahel Radio, which is a space for dialogue and education on citizenship and share opportunities for the youth within this region. This radio for the youth should become operational in the 5 the end of 2021. Your Excellencies, heads of state, this is not new, but I'm best repeating that West Africa is confronted with a major security threat, which is characterized by terrorist groups extending their activities in the Sahelian region and increasingly towards the coastal countries. Our countries expect that security will be guaranteed by all. Each one of you is committed, I'm aware, to confront this security challenge. Without security, no development can be possible. The International Francophonie Organization, once again, will provide all the necessary support to you to ease the tensions in order to mobilize its 88 member states that will provide support training to peace and share experience in terms of redeployment in territorial administration and support training for mediation. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I welcome the exemplary collaboration between La Francophonie and ECOWAS, in particular in terms of supporting electoral processes. We have worked very closely, as you are aware, on the elections that held recently in Cote d'Ivoire, in Burkina Faso, Niger, as well as in Benin. This excellent collaboration seeks to be enhanced as we agreed with the current chairman of ECOWAS. West Africa has indeed always been at the forefront of democratic change, but consolidating democracy would require that we listen increasingly to the citizens and distinguished heads of state and government. We need to also ensure that violence and tensions are not part and parcel of our electoral processes. Allow me quickly to make mention of the situation in Mali, and it is part of all the challenges I mentioned earlier on. But would first of all like to commend ECOWAS for its activity and the support provided in resolving the Malian crisis. But we also want to say that the Francophonie is in full support of ECOWAS as far as its position concerning this big member of Francophonie is concerned. We also suspended Mali following the second coup d'etat, but we are maintaining our support to support the country towards the restoration of constitutional and democratic order. Indeed, some of our team members are already in the field to support the transitional authorities. We are therefore providing support to the institutional and electoral reforms that are already envisaged. It is crucial that the next elections would enable the future leaders to have the necessary legitimacy to conduct far-reaching reforms which the Malian people so expectant of. On this issue, we can assure you of our continuous support on the part of our organization, and this alongside our member states. And finally, since we are also involved in far-reaching transformation of our Francophonie organization, President Nana Akufo-Addo, we welcome the decisions that you will be making as far as the reforms of your own institution.
En famille, entre la CEDEAO et la
and the Francophonie. On this note, I wish to thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much. I now respectfully call on His Excellency Mohamed Saleh Anadif, Special Representative of the UN Secretary General for Africa and the Sahel, to give us his statement. Thank you.
Excellence, Monsieur Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Président de la République du Ghana, et président en exercice de la conférence des chefs d'État et de gouvernement de la CEDEAO, Excellences, Messieurs les chefs de prendre part à cette 59e session ordinaire de la conférence des chefs d'État et de gouvernement de la CEDEAO en tant que représentant spécial du secrétaire général des Nations Unies et chef du bureau des Nations Unies pour l'Afrique de l'Ouest et le Sahel, dont je préside la destinée depuis le mois d'avril.
Which I have headed since the month of April, in continuation of the hard work of my brother Mohammed Ibn Chambas, whose work is well known and which I commend. I seize this opportunity to transfer to you the warm greetings of Mr. Antonio Guterres, United Nations Secretary General, who is monitoring the regional developments closely. Since my taking office at the head of the United Nations Office for West Africa and the Sahel, I have conducted several familiarization and contact missions to the leadership in the sub-region. These consultations, which are ongoing, have given me opportunity to note the constant concern of heads of state and governments to work towards consolidation of peace, security and development of their people. The concerted effort in the sub-region to support the Republic of Mali in carrying out a successful transition bears witness to this commitment. The United Nations remains available to support your efforts, particularly through our mission in Mali, MINUSMA, which is being led by our brother El Gassim Wan, whom I also wish well. The smooth running of electoral calendars as well as political processes in the sub-region these last few months are also an illustration of the commitment of heads of state in the sub-region. Unfortunately, differences and sometimes violence have tarnished the electoral process and also undermined dialogue and consensus. We welcome the political dynamics, the positive political dynamics in Côte d'Ivoire, particularly the measures put in place by the authorities towards the return of the former president, Laurent Gbagbo, to his country. This is a positive move towards strengthening social cohesion and national reconciliation. 2 ECOWAS member states are preparing presidential elections in the next few months. Cabo Verde in October 17th and the Gambia on the 4th of December. On the Gambia, where we are seeing a smooth running of electoral registration, we encourage all parties to reach a consensus on the constitutional process. We also commend the Inter-Party Committee for its efforts towards dialogue, and this serves as a gauge of peaceful and credible elections. In addition, the implementation of recommendations that came out of the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Committee is a challenge that the Gambia must face. In respect to Cape Verde, the elections should be an opportunity to consolidate the democratic progress in the country, as were the case in the legislative elections in April. There is need also to sincerely commend the authorities of Cape Verde in their activities towards regional integration, and to also extend the desire that this continues to be the case.
In the sub-region is dominated by distributing events, including attacks by terrorist groups destroying life and property, exerting heavy pressure on the resources of government in Sahel countries and the Lake Chad Basin, notably in Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, and Nigeria. Sadly, innocent civilians, women and children continue to be the hardest hit. The deadly attacks in Solan, in Burkina Faso, on the night of June 4 to 5, in which at least 160 were killed, remind us of the monstrosity of terrorist activity. We commend the efforts of national forces and those of multinational forces, in particular the multinational joint task force against Boko Haram and the G5 Sahel joint force, which continued their joint cross-border operation against violent extremists despite the budgetary constraints. The United Nations welcomes the appointment of Their Excellencies Nana Akufo-Addo of Ghana and Mahamadou Issoufou, former President of Niger, to lead the effort to mobilize financial and technical resources with a view to accelerating implementation of the ECOWAS 2020-2024 action plan to eradicate terrorism in the region, which should no longer be considered as a challenge exclusively limited to Sahel. The improvement of coordination between the ECOWAS action plan, the regional strategy for stabilization of the Lake Chad Basin, and the United Nations integrated strategy for the Sahel is very necessary in order to ensure a comprehensive approach and long-term stabilization. We must also continue challenge linked to intercommunal violence and organized crime, which are having enormous security and humanitarian consequences in the sub-region. In this regard, piracy and armed attacks at sea in Gulf of Guinea remain very worrying and call for an urgent response on our part. We need to identify quick but lasting innovative solutions that can put an end to crime along the coast of the Gulf of Guinea. This is all the more urgent as the threat of connection between terrorist acts in the Sahel and maritime crime in coastal countries remain real and dangerous. It is essential to coordinate initiatives to curb this threat. Excellences, Mesdames, Messieurs, les différents défis sécuritaires ont un impact direct sur la situation des droits humains dans la sous-région, notamment celle des femmes et des jeunes. Nous devons continuer à travailler à l'amélioration de la situation globale des droits de l'homme.
Particularly through equitable access to justice for all, the protection of human rights activists, and the adoption of legislative frameworks to fight against violence against women and sexism. The ECOWAS notes positively the positive move to represent women, mainstreaming gender in policies as well as in reforms. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in the backdrop of COVID-19, there is need to commend the decision of the 58th session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of States instructing the launch of the vaccination campaigns. This demonstrates the coordination as well as the sub-region's determination to fight against this pandemic, which up until now has been well contained. The United Nations remains available to the sub-region to support national and regional initiatives in the fight against the pandemic. We must, however, remain vigilant. We must not drop our hands as the pandemic continues to affect the security and socio-economic situation of our people. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to see the excellent relationship between ECOWAS and the United Nations, and us in particular, and I commit to work towards the enhancement of this partnership, towards the attainment of our common objectives. Thank you very much for your kind attention. We turn our attention to the African Development Bank Group. With due consideration, it is my pleasure to give the floor to His Excellency Akiwumi Adesina for his statement.
Your Excellency, President Nana Akufo-Addo, President of Ghana and Chairman of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, ECOWAS Mediator on Mali, Your Excellency, my dear brother Jean-Claude Brou, President of the ECOWAS Commission, representatives of the African Union, Secretary General of the Francophonie, Special Representative of the United Nations Secretary General, Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, Ambassadors, Heads of Diplomatic Missions, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I wish to thank you very much, President Nana Akufo-Addo, for your outstanding leadership of the ECOWAS region. I am deeply honored to have been invited by you to address this summit. It was, Your Excellencies, on the December 22nd, 2019 in Abuja that I last had the opportunity to address the ECOWAS heads of state and government. I wish to use this occasion to collectively thank you, Your Excellencies, heads of state and government, for your huge confidence in me as President of the African Development Bank. With your individual and collective support, and those of your Ministers of Finance and Foreign Affairs, I was re-elected as President of the African Development Bank with 100% of the votes of all regional and non-regional member countries, the first time in the history of the bank since its establishment in 1964. Thank you very much. I wish to say a special thank you to my President, President Muhammadu Buhari, for nominating me and standing solidly behind and beside me through the thick and thin. I am equally grateful to my host President and big brother, President Alassane Ouattara, President of the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire, whose wise counsel, unflinching support, and kindness help at all times. Many thanks, Your Excellencies. Your Excellencies, you can be proud of the African Development Bank, your bank. The African Development Bank was rated the best multilateral financial institution in the world for 2021 by the prestigious U.S. financial magazine Global Finance, and this is a first for us since our establishment of the bank in 1964. And just 2 weeks ago, the African Development Fund, the bank's concessional financing institution, was also ranked the second best in the world among the 49 largest global multilateral institutions, and bilateral agencies that deliver official development assistance. Your Excellencies, these achievements of your bank deserve to be celebrated. Well done, bravo, Ayeko. The African Development Bank is investing massively in West Africa. We are delighted with our excellent relationship and partnership with the ECOWAS Commission. The total active portfolio of the bank in West Africa currently stands at $16 billion, the second largest for the bank anywhere in the continent. The bank's support for infrastructure in the ECOWAS region has doubled over the past 5 years, increasing from $2 billion in 2015, when I was first elected, to $4 billion. While I can list several projects in every country, let me just mention a few critical regional infrastructure. The Senegambia Bridge is rapidly facilitating trade between Senegal and the Gambia. Our financing helped to double the capacity of the Lomé container port in Togo, which is critical for regional transport and logistics. The Bamako to San Pedro corridor has helped to expand trade between Côte d'Ivoire and Mali by 34%, while reducing transit time at the border from 24 hours to just 2.5 hours. The 303-kilometer road linking Ouagadougou and Lomé has reduced travel time from 6 days to just 2.5 days. Our $650 million financing for the transport corridors linking Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Liberia will impact on economic opportunities for 51 million people. The $430 million highway linking Enugu in Nigeria to Bamenda in Cameroon will be completed this year and will transform trade opportunities between the two countries. And I am really pleased this year that the bank will provide $105 million financing for the road linking Guinea-Bissau and Senegal. Your Excellencies, on energy, the $20 billion Desert to Power program of the bank will develop 10,000 megawatts of solar power to light up the Sahel and provide access to electricity for 250 million people. This project will make the Sahel the largest solar zone in the world. And right here in Ghana, the bank's financing of $120 million for the new terminal at Kotoka International Airport is having huge impacts on regional transport and freight movements. With the new terminal, freight handling has expanded by 30%. And we are working hard, together with the ECOWAS Commission, to finalize the feasibility studies for the landmark Abidjan-Lagos corridor by the end of this year. We expect construction for the corridor to commence within 24 months. This highway will link 85% of the trade volume in ECOWAS through the corridor. To further support regional trade, the bank provided $4.5 million for the establishment of the African Continental Free Trade Secretariat right here in Accra. That's who we are, Africa's Solutions Bank. And Africa needs solutions to help it navigate through the very challenging times now posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. I would like to commend your Excellencies for your excellent leadership in addressing the effects of this pandemic. The African Development Bank moved very quickly to launch a $10 billion facility to support countries. We also launched a $3 billion Fight COVID social bond on the global capital markets, which was the largest social bond ever in world history. Now things, Your Excellencies, are looking up again. The African Development Bank projects that Africa's GDP growth will rebound to 3.4% this year. In West Africa, GDP growth is projected to recover from minus 1.5% in 2020 to 2.8% in 2021 and 3.9% in 2022. But the rebound will depend on access to vaccines. Africa should not be begging for vaccines. Africa should be producing vaccines. The African Development Bank will ramp up support to Africa to produce vaccines as part of the vaccines plan of the African Union. The bank will also commit $3 billion to developing the pharmaceutical industry in Africa. Your Excellencies, it is now time to rapidly build a healthcare defense system for Africa to tackle these and future pandemics. The African Development Bank plans to invest in building quality healthcare infrastructure in Africa. Your Excellencies, we must also now tackle the debt challenge facing the sub-region and indeed all of Africa. Africa will need significant financial support. Low-income sub-Saharan African countries will need $245 billion by 2030 in additional gross financing, while the whole of sub-Saharan Africa will need $425 billion over the same period. Your Excellencies, we now have a real opportunity to tackle Africa's debt challenges more decisively with the recent decision of the IMF to issue special drawing rights, otherwise called SDRs. The G7 Global Leaders Summit, which followed your call for this at the Paris meeting of financing, gave the green light for allocating $100 billion of SDRs to Africa. This will open the way for much-needed relief for Africa. As agreed in Paris during the Financing for Africa Economists Summit, the heads of state called for the African Development Bank to receive SDRs on behalf of African countries as well, and to use them to on-lend to public development banks. It will also be important that some of the SDRs in Africa be used to buy down some of the very expensive debt owed to private creditors. These will help to avert a looming crisis of payments to private bondholders due in 2023-2024, which, if not addressed, could lead to massive credit downgrades across Africa. Your Excellencies, we must now put in place an African financial stability mechanism to protect the continent against external shocks. This mechanism is critical. It will require that we mutualize our resources, avoid regional spillover effects, regionalize fiscal policy rules, develop homegrown reforms and debt resolution approaches, and provide a regional safety net that will complement the global safety net of the International Monetary Fund. Your Excellencies, when we resolve Africa's debt challenges, I can rest, if just a little. But one thing will still keep me awake at night: Africa's rising insecurity. As you well know, the situation is most precarious in the Sahel and the Lake Chad Basin. But I'm sure, Your Excellencies, it keeps you also awake at night. The trend is disturbing, as expenditures on defense are rising fast, displacing financing for development. Your Excellencies, the investable space in Africa is rapidly shrinking due to insecurity. Take the case of Mozambique, where the African Development Bank helped to structure a $24 billion deal for its liquefied natural gas project. This transaction won the Global Project Deal of the Year 2020 award. This will have made Mozambique the third largest producer of liquefied natural gas in the world, with projected revenues of $66 billion. Alas, terrorists have now invaded the location. Total, the major project sponsor, has just declared force majeure and has pulled out. These insecurity situations and insurgencies now pose the biggest risks to Africa's development. Yet countries lack adequate resources to effectively tackle these challenges. If unaddressed quickly, insecurity will become a huge risk to our dream of an African continental free trade area. It is time to adapt our approach. Your Excellencies, we must now link security to investment, growth, and development. That's why the African Development Bank calls for the development of security-indexed investment bonds. Taking advantage of low long-term interest rates, these security-indexed investment bonds will allow Africa to leverage resources on the global capital markets to reinforce its security. The revenue streams from the security index investment bonds can be used to, 1, reinforce the security architecture of African countries and support dual-purpose infrastructure to enhance national and regional peacekeeping and security capabilities. 2, build destroyed or damaged infrastructure in conflict-affected areas and finance new investment projects to relaunch economic activities and create jobs in areas prone to security challenges. 3, build social infrastructure for the populations, especially water, sanitation, schools, health, roads, ICT, and agricultural infrastructure to improve access to basic services to support community livelihoods in fragile environments. And 4th, protect strategic investments within countries or regions. The security index investment bonds can be delivered through special purpose vehicles established on behalf of a pool of regional member countries. The bonds can be credit enhanced by the African Development Bank and other donors. The administration of the bond proceeds can be managed by the under the auspices of the African Union's Peace and Security Council and the regional economic communities, which includes ECOWAS Commission. Then, Your Excellencies, we all can sleep with our eyes closed to wake up the next morning ready again to work relentlessly for Africa's assured destiny of prosperity. So, Your Excellencies, together, let us assure economic growth and prosperity for the ECOWAS region. Together, let us build greater resilience, financial and economic resilience, climate resilience, and health resilience. Together, let us give the region a well-financed security architecture that will secure the lives of people and enhance the attractiveness of the region as a prime investment destination. Let us plant the flag of ECOWAS on a higher mountain. Let's rise higher. Thank you very much, Your Excellencies.
Agradecemos o Dr. Akimumi Adesina, presidente do Banco Africano de Desenvolvimento, pela sua déclaration. Nous allons maintenant témoigner un moment historique avec la signature d'un protocole d'accord de coopération militaire et technique entre la République du Sénégal et la République de Guinée. Pendant que les honorables ministres gagnent leur place, je passe la parole au président de la Commission pour modérer cet événement. Merci.
Your Excellencies, the last item on the agenda of our opening ceremony is the signature of a military and technical memorandum of understanding between the Republic of Guinea and the Republic of Senegal. As we all know, for some time, the border between these two important members of our community has unfortunately been closed. I thought it necessary before the summit to make the effort to see whether it would be possible to chart a roadmap for the reopening of the border, having regard especially to the commitment to the free movement of goods and services and people, the respect of which is fundamental to the health of our community. I went to Dakar to see the distinguished President of Senegal, His Excellency Macky Sall, to seek his views. I went also to Conakry to seek the views of our doyen, His Excellency Professor Alpha Condé, the President of Guinea. As a result of these interactions and the direct discussions between the two leaders, we've been able to arrive at this moment where the first step towards the reopening of the border will be taken by the signature of the Ministers for Defense of the two countries of this Memorandum of Understanding. Your Excellencies, I'm very glad to be part of this solemn moment which offers us the opportunity to celebrate dialogue and solidarity in our region through this ceremony. In September 2020, the Republic of Guinea decided, due to security threats, to close its land borders with 3 of its neighboring countries, namely Guinea-Bissau, Senegal, and Sierra Leone. As we all know, our region has been dealing with the resurgence of the terrorist phenomenon in recent years, with recurrent attacks which claim a significant number of victims, especially civilians. Faced with this situation, a process of dialogue has been initiated between these states, which has already enabled the reopening of the Guinea-Sierra Leonean border, which is a source of great delight. I'd like to congratulate my brothers, Their Excellencies Professor Alpha Condé and Julius Maada Bio, for their spirit of cooperation and openness, which has made it possible to achieve this beneficial result for the development of their countries and the entire region. This process of dialogue has continued between the Republic of Guinea and the Republic of Senegal and has resulted in a happy ending, which has earned us the pleasure and honor of this ceremony. The two countries have agreed, after discussions, to a military cooperation agreement with a view to ensuring the security management of their common border. I'd like, on behalf of the Conference of Heads of State and Government, to extend my warm congratulations to our brothers, Their Excellencies Professor Alpha Condé, President of the Republic of Guinea, and Macky Sall, President of the Republic of Senegal. I'd like to assure them of our support and our fraternity within the framework of this important agreement, which allows the implementation of the process of reopening of their common border. I'd like them to encourage them to continue along the path of dialogue and solidarity in accordance with the spirit of the ECOWAS Treaty, which has made them foundational principles of our common organization. I firmly believe that a similar initiative will soon take place, allowing us hopefully one day to reopen the land border between the Republic of Guinea and the Republic of Guinea-Bissau. I'd like to end my remarks by thanking all the heads of state and government of ECOWAS who accompanied this process, thus demonstrating their constant commitment to the deepening of regional integration in West Africa. Thank you for your attention.
Please, the security, can you ask the photographer to move on the side to allow the head of state to follow the situation?
Je dois aller là-bas.
To permit their excellencies to observe the signing, please. Thank you very much. We thank the honourable ministers. Thank you.
Yes, the President of Guinea-Bissau.
Muito obrigado, Sr. Presidente Nana. Mas estou a assistir aqui, sinceramente, ninguém percebe. E eu não percebemos porque não há guerra entre Senegal e a República de Guiné-Conakry. O espírito da amizade da CEDEAO, temos que dizer a verdade ao Presidente Alpha. Ele não tinha direito de fechar as fronteiras com Guiné-Bissau e Senegal, e nomeadamente a Sierra Leone. E eu nunca farei trazer aqui os ministros para assinarem isso.
Mr. President, please, thank you very much, but I don't think that we need to retrace those steps. I'm going to have to call you out of order. We will now bring our opening ceremony to a conclusion, and we'll take 5 minutes for us to be able to clear the room so that the heads of state can go into closed session. Thank you.
Thank you. The opening ceremony has now come to an end. We will ask our members, our partners of the press to please withdraw. The authority will continue its deliberations in a closed-door format. The formula is 1+3. We therefore ask all those who are not accredited for the closed-door session to please leave the room. Thank you.